What is up, App Nation? It is Steve P. Young, founder of appmasters.com, the place you go when you want action-packed content in the app business. And I talk to some phenomenal people in the app space so that we can all collectively learn from them and grow our businesses. And today, I've got a repeat guest. He was just here about a year ago. He's back to talk about his brand new product that's going to help you kind of figure out what all this data that you have means and why it's so important and how to really process it so that you can grow your downloads, grow your retention, grow your monetization, all the KPIs that you want to grow. But without further ado, let me introduce the guest. His name is Lior Barak, and he is a data consultant, and you can learn more about him and his brand new product that we're going to be talking about at tailaboutdata.com. That's tail as in T-A-L-E, like in a story, tailaboutdata.com. Lior, welcome back.
Hi, happy to be back. It's super awesome to be here.
So when you talk about data, are you just talking about all the data, like from your analytics, such as adjust, like your monetization? What are you talking about when you bring up data?
So when we're talking about data, we're talking about everything. So we're talking about, on the one side, you have the attribution tools, which are basically adjust and AppsFire and all the rest of the unbiased ones. You have the biased one, which is the Facebook Analytics and Google Analytics on the other side. And then we're talking also about all this ad publishers information that you have out there. So you have, we're running a lot of campaigns, right? And it's not only, mostly it's Facebook and Google, the clients that we see. It's getting bigger and bigger, unfortunately, but you still see a share, for example, for Snapchat. Or you still see Instagram there that people are trying to push harder. You see TikTok now, people starting to advertise a little bit. And Apple search, which is the most horrible thing ever, but they still force us to do it, so we do it. And basically, it's collecting this data from them and aggregating it in the correct way to actually understand how to use the data, and then it's to visualize it. So it's bringing you from the rawest data, the shittiest, sorry for the word.
No, I like it.
So let's keep it.
Yeah, that's how we normally talk, right?
So it's basically, it's from the roughest and the shittiest data that you have, and it's processing it and it's refining it to bring you in the funnel to the right decisions. So at the end of the day, when we're thinking about data, we should not think about data as numbers. We should think about actions. And this is the most important part when we're dealing with data. I had actually a speech a couple of months ago with Adjust on Mobile Spray in Berlin here.
Oh, cool.
And what I was telling there is that I see data as a hummus plate. The hummus dish is a very interesting dish, right? It's chickpeas, but if it's being done correctly, it can basically supply you energy for an entire day. And the same thing, the hummus dish is supplying you, and it's wrapping whatever food you're going to put on top of it. You can put it with meat, you can put it with falafel if you want, you can mix it with veggies. Yeah. And it's going to basically do a great stuff because it's going to help you to rise the ingredients that you put next to it. And this is the same with data. When we're looking at data, at the end of the day, what we need to look at is that there is a lot of information there that we need to refine and use it correctly. And if we do it correctly, it's going to basically run with us for the rest of our day to make our decisions easier.
As a vegan now, so I love hummus. And so glad you brought that out. But I'm going to make sure I link up the Adjust Talk into the show notes. So if you just click on the Adjust Talk, you'll get to see Lior talk about this. Now, Lior, let me talk about this. Something that's been working for you is simplifying this data processing, I guess, for lack of a better word, process or structure, right? So well, how have you gone about simplifying it?
So what we understood is that the biggest problem of every marketeer out there today is not with getting the data, although everybody complaining cannot get the data, but it's actually to understand what data he needs and in what structure you should have it. And it took us quite a while to refine our learnings and our understanding from it, because we started with a lot of data and we used to give our clients a lot of information at the beginning, but it didn't make sense to give them that much because then we noticed something else. There are no decisions that being made there. And then we realized that we actually need to refine it and we need to polish it and we need to make it as simple as we can and actually force people to make actions. If there is no action from your KPI or from your measure, no reason to copy it at all or use it.
When you're talking to clients, so maybe to my audience, I understand them a little bit more. Maybe they're spending a little bit on advertising, but a bunch of them are really relying on organic downloads as well. What kind of data should they be looking at when you're talking about, all right, look, I don't have Facebook data. I don't have Google data. All I have is just more organic data. What are some key metrics that they should be looking at then?
So if you're looking at it this way, we should always look at installs, right? Is the most important measure that we already have. Then from when we're looking at organic, mostly it's about the active users and the retentions of this user. And when we're looking at this stuff, we also need to understand what is the revenue that's being driven. So we don't develop apps just for our fun, right? We don't just publish and doing whatever. Okay, I don't care anymore. Actually, we want to earn money either from advertisement or from selling something on it, or to process it or get information that we can actually afterwards sell it. And our goals needs to be basically then, all of our funnel, even for an organic, needs to be built about what is our golden event. So what is the thing that we want our user to do in the app? And this is what users need to understand as well. So for example, a lot of users are going to tell me that what they care about is the revenue from ads, especially from gamings, right? Because you have quite a lot of ads, sometimes games doing it over, and then you have like 15 or 20 ads in a session, which driving them 2 cents or 4 cents because people don't really care anymore and they're losing the users quite fast. And even if you're doing organic, this is a great indicator for you actually to see that actually because of your ads, you're losing quite a lot of users, and this is something that you can actually pull back and fix it.
I like that. From a downloads perspective, now when you're looking at from like ads, are you looking at like how many times people are coming back in? Like retention side of things. What little metrics should they be pulling from and should be looking at? I don't know if that question makes sense.
So what they need to do is from the install event itself, they need to create some cohort that's saying, usually my users, I want them to use my app as long as they can, right? So I want them for 360 days, 720 days. And they need to build this cohort in a way that will make sense for them. So basically telling them, this is the amount of revenue you've done on the day one, on the first 24 hours. This is the amount of revenues you've done on after 3 days, after 45 days, after 30 days, and so on and so on. And they're building some cohort for this install. And even from organic perspective, it's making sense for you to know also, for example, if it's subscription-based, how long does it take to a user to actually subscribe? Or how long actually a user is using your trial. If you're giving him 30 days trial for your app, you want to know if he stopped at some point, and then try to figure out why did he stop to use your app.
I see. And then can you rely on just the analytics that you're getting from the app stores, like through Google Play and iTunes, or do you need an Adjust or an App Flyer to really, understand the data?
You will need to have an attribution tool on top of it that's going to sit and give you more information. It should not be a biased tool. This is a very important thing. I will keep saying it. Use unbiased tools. This is the most important thing, because what you need to understand is when you're looking at the cohort of a database, it needs to be as close as possible to the reality when it's coming to it. And the stores also have limitation. And to combine this data into your database will be quite complicated process. So it's better to actually simplify it and use like Adjust or AppsFire on top of it, that actually doing some aggregation for you and doing some fixing for the data.